Good day, everyone. Our discussion for today is all about prenatal development. Prenatal development is the development that occurs before birth. Life begins at conception. In the reproductive system of the female sit inside her pelvic cavity. Conception usually occurs during a woman's ovulation period or within a few days of it. During this time, the female ovaries and ovum that is fertilized by sperm will develop into a new human. The term natal in the word prenatal means birth. So prenatal implies before birth. That is right from the point of fertilization to the childbirth. And this period encompasses the 9 months of pregnancy. This prenatal development is generally divided into 3 stages: the germinal stage, the embryonic stage, and the fetal stage. Germinal stage, which starts from conception and lasts up to the end of the 2nd week. The egg slowly travels through the fallopian tube, and if sperms are present at that location, one of these sperm may unite with ovum in a process called fertilization. Only one sperm can enter the egg outer membrane. The moment a sperm penetrates the egg, conception occurs, creating a new and a separate cell called zygote. If a single zygote divides into 2 to form 2 new embryos, the result is the development of monozygotic or identical twins. And if 2 separate ova are released simultaneously by the ovary, and then if they are fertilized by 2 sperms, they form 2 different zygotes, which if implemented on the uterine wall, develop into dizygotic, non-identical, or fraternal twins. The fertilized egg, which we call the zygote, is a single cell, but it soon begins to divide. The first division to produce 2 cells take place within 24 to 36 hours after fertilization. The cells divide first to form a ball of cell called medulla, which then develop into the blastocyst that involves the formation of a cavity within the medulla. The cells, in the course of dividing, travel down the fallopian tube and enter the womb, where the blastocyst implants itself into the wall of the uterus. This happens about 5 to 6 days after fertilization. During the next 5 to 7 days, the blastocyst establishes a primitive placenta and circulation, ensuring the supply of nutrients and oxygen essential for its continued development. The possible hazard during this period of the zygote is due to the lack of proper balance between the glands and the ovaries of the mother. The blastocyst may not get implanted and then it dies. Embryonic stage. This stage lasts from the 3rd to the 8th weeks. There are 3 crucial structures developed from the fertilized egg to protect and sustain the growing life within the mother's uterus, and these are the amniotic sac, the placenta, and the umbilical cord. The amniotic sac contains amniotic fluids, which is a watery liquid in which the developing embryo floats, and this serves as a protective buffer. The tendrils that attach the embryo to the uterine wall increase the size and complexity to form a fleshy disc-like structure which is referred to as the placenta. The embryo is joined to the placenta at the abdomen by the umbilical cord, which is a tube that contains blood vessels to carry oxygen and nutrients to the growing baby and remove carbon dioxide and waste products. During the embryonic stage, the inner mass of the new organism differentiates into 3 layers. The outermost layer is called ectoderm, which develop the skin, hair, nails, and layer of skin. The middle layer is called mesoderm, which muscles, skeletons, circulatory, and connective tissues develop. And the innermost layer is endoderm, which the gastrointestinal, liver, lungs, pancreas, salivary glands develop. Many important external and internal features start to grow and function. During this stage, the heart, although only 2-chambered, begins to beat. At blood is circulated around the embryo by the end of the 3rd week. This enables the removal of waste and the acquisition of nutrients, as all the body's organs begin to form during this period. It is considered the most crucial stage of prenatal development. The potential danger of this stage is if the embryo does not receive sufficient protection and nourishment. There may be a miscarriage or malformation. The fetal stage. It is the final stage of prenatal development. This starts from the end of the 8 weeks and lasts until birth. Both internal and external features continue to grow. This stage is marked by the continued development and the differentiation of structures that emerge during the embryonic stage. Basic structures that will lead down in the embryonic stage are now refined and they grow into the final form. During this stage, the origins of motor, sensory, and learning behavior are to be found. This stage is considered safer than the embryonic stage, but it is not completely free from hazards. By the end of the 4th month, mother feels the fetus movement, and around the 5th month, reflexes such as sucking, swallowing, and hiccuping usually occur. During the 5th month and 22 weeks, the fetus weight is a little over 1 pound and is about 1 foot in length. The fetus begins to show sensitivity to light and can be stimulated and irritated from this point onward. Although there are a few cases of infant being born and surviving at this time, the chances of survival and the absence of later complications are very slim. In the 6 months, most of the organs that were formed during the first trimester begin to function. If born at this time, the fetus has a chance for survival. The point at which it can first survive is referred to as the age of being variable, and this occurs sometimes between the 22nd and the 26th week. During the 7th month, the fetus is only 3 pounds in weight, and therefore, the 7-month-old fetus has a new pound to gain before reaching the average 7.5 pounds. During this stage, the brain continues to develop at an increasingly fast rate. By 7 months, the fetus is clearly responsive and it develops a preference for the tone and the rhythm of the mother voice. By the 8th month, fetus has a room for large movements. A layer of fat is added that will assist with temperature regulation. The lungs are still very immature. If born at this time, the infant will likely require some help with the breathing. It is not the 9th month that the lungs are matured enough to regulate breathing on their own without assistance. During the last month of gestation, the baby continues to grow at a rate about half to 1 pound per week. The lungs are maturing in preparation for the first birth. The baby will also turn around in the womb to a head-down position for birth. There are some risk factors related to prenatal development. The first factors includes environmental agents that produce abnormalities in the developing fetus, and these are collectively referred to as teratogens. The term teratogen derived from the Greek word teras, which means marvel or monster. A teratogen exerts its effect largely during critical development period. For instance, between the 20th and the 48th day, the heart of the baby develops, and therefore it's at risk of danger from teratogen. Each teratogen exerts certain specific effects. For example, the rubella. If the mother is suffering from its effect, it will also affect the fetus' heart, eyes, and brain. While the thalidomide consumption produces malformation of the lymph. Maternal and fetal genotypes may counteract for teratogen effects. Because we know that not all mothers who have rubella produce defective infants. The effect of one teratogen may intensify the effect of another. For example, nutritional deficiencies may increase the adverse effect of drugs. A particular teratogen may affect the fetus but not may have any discernible effect on the mother. A certain teratogen may produce a variety of deviation, whereas several different teratogens may produce the same kind of deviation. Consider the condition rubella, as well as the substances quinine and streptomycin, all of which can individually cause deafness. The longer a fetus is exposed to a particular teratogen, and the greater the intensity of the teratogen effects, the more likely it is that the fetus would be seriously harmed. Teratogen can be classified as drug, chemical, and metals. This can cause a wide range of congenital abnormalities, estimated to produce around 10% of birth defects. So, the severity of the abnormality depends on different factors such as the amount of the substance the mother is exposed to, the developmental stage of the baby, the period of time over which the mother's exposure to the chemical, drug, or metal takes place. The drugs, chemicals, and metal that affect the baby's prenatal development are the narcotics. Mothers who are addicted to heroin, morphine, and methadone, which are narcotic drugs, give birth to addicted babies who show symptoms of withdrawal, and this includes tremors, convulsions, difficulty to breathing, and intestinal disturbances. Other babies may additionally prone to pneumonia, prematurity, and low birth weight. The heroin and morphine can also induce difficulty in conceiving, and in the infant, they lead to prematurity, low birth weight, addiction, withdrawal, and even death. Next is the smoking and nicotine. The consequences for the smoker or the nicotine user can be hazardous for the child in the womb. Nicotine increases of spontaneous abortions, bleeding during pregnancy, premature rupture of the amniotic sac, and fetal death. The father smoking can also be very risky because it can transmit the risk of cancer to the offspring. Also, mothers who smoke typically give birth to babies who are about 225 grams lighter and smaller in all dimensions. Caffeine. This stimulant possesses higher risk for miscarriage and low birth weight of infants. Alcohol. Abuse of alcohol leads to a condition called fetal alcohol syndrome. This fetal alcohol syndrome leads to a pattern of malformation, in which the most serious effect is mental retardation. Mothers who have drank daily were 3 times more likely to miscarry. Possible complication includes permanent growth retardation, malformation of the face, brain damage, hyperactivity, learning disability, heart defects. So, pregnant women are typically advised to avoid alcohol. Marijuana. This drug also causes difficulty in conceiving, and in the infant, it leads to prematurity, low birth weight, and high-pitched crying. Lysergic acid diethylamide. This psychedelic drug leads to chromosomal breakage. Diethylstilbestrol causes prematurity and low birth weight. Female children may develop cancer of the cervix, whereas male children may have reproductive abnormalities and the increased risk of testicular cancer. Thalidomide leads to the deformation of the child's face, limbs, finger, and toes. It can also cause malformation of the heart, digestive, and genital urinary tracts. Quinine. Traditionally used to treat malaria, quinine has been associated with deafness in the child. Reserpine. This drug can lead to respiratory problem. Tetracycline. The antibiotic is avoided during pregnancy because it can produce defective skeletal growth. Aspirin can cause blood disorder. Anticonvulsant medication. These drugs, which are used to remedy seizures, can give rise to cleft lip and palate, and the failure of blood regulation. Anesthetic can cause short-term depression of the infant's responsiveness alongside resulting in impaired attention and motor abilities. Lead. This metal can cause miscarriage, anemia, and hemorrhage in the mother.